are the biggest financial mistakes you see that founders make early on?
Great question, Anshuman. I think the biggest mistake people make is not having the right person managing their financials, honestly.
Hmm. Okay, most founders spend years chasing growth, capital, and scale, but very few realize that the biggest bottleneck in their business isn't the strategy, funding, or even execution. It is leadership. Neeti Dewan has spent more than 2 decades operating at the highest level of finance, tax, business transformation, and leadership. From PwC to KPMG and Arma to leading her own global fractional CFO firm, she has helped organizations navigate complexity, growth, and change. Today, she serves as the CEO of Platinum Advantage, president of TiE Atlanta, investor, board director, author, and creator of the Executive Yogi framework, a philosophy built around power, peace, and profit. While many leaders talk about financial intelligence, Neeti brings something different to the conversation: the belief that sustainable success comes from combining business excellence with emotional mastery and mindfulness. Today, we are going to talk about startup finance, leadership, trust, founder mindset, emotional resilience, and what it really takes to build a business and a life that lasts. Welcome to the show, Neeti.
Thank you so much, Anshuman. Looking forward to our conversation today.
So the common thread between us is TiE. You are the current president of TiE Atlanta, such a thriving chapter and such a robust angel program. I was the past president of TiE Los Angeles, SoCal then, and Los Angeles now. And currently, I'm serving in the TiE Global Board of Trustee. How has been your TiE journey? Let's start from there.
Yeah, the beauty of the TiE journey is honestly what the principles that TiE is based upon, right? We've always based it on one thing, and that is being net givers in our organization. And so with TiE, when I first got involved, it was literally as a volunteer, right? I
Uh-huh.
became a mentor for TiE University. I was mentoring some of the university students with their startups, getting them ready for certain competitions, pitch competitions, and then also saw that some of their journeys ended up in very thriving businesses. And my gosh, that is such a fulfilling thing to see, right? When the students actually end up becoming the masters. So they've done great. And
Right.
that's how my journey started. And over the time, I started getting a little bit more involved, and I realized this is one organization which is very different from the rest that I belong to.
Mhm.
And that one superpower of TiE I found was basically everybody is there not just to get, but they are constantly focused on first giving. And I love that. And that's my whole philosophy about life as well. First see where you can add value, and then automatically over time, if you're adding value, you become valuable. That's it.
Mhm.
Simple as that. And so that's sort of been my TiE journey. And then I joined the board of directors for TiE a couple of years ago. And I started as a TiE Atlanta president in January, and it's been extremely fulfilling.
Yeah. What are two or three things that you want to achieve during your presidency? It is for 2 years. You started this January in 2026. What are some of the initiatives that you are taking to the finishing line in the next 2 years?
Yeah, so obviously, TiE being a global organization, that's well and great, right? But I think one of the things that I really want to focus on is the interconnectivity with all other organizations within Atlanta, right? How do we focus in on everything that's already available within our resources across the city? Uh,
Mhm.
because as you know, there's so many organizations, right? So many different organizations focused on one thing or the other. What if we collectively could come together and bring our strengths to the table and
Right.
then serve the market, serve the founders, serve the investors, and serve the students of our city all together? So that's sort of been my guiding principle, and that's what I want to achieve over the next 2 years. And the way we've started that journey is we started something called TiE Connect. And
Mhm.
this is where we literally bring in every other organization that is serving entrepreneurs in our city and or investor organizations. We bring them all together one day, and they get to interconnect with each other, as well as all our members, all our guests who attend. They get to meet every single organization whom they want to focus in on right there under a single roof. To me, that is amazingly powerful.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And we are going to meet each other in France for the Charter Member Retreat, and I'm looking forward to it. It was great meeting with you at TiECon Silicon Valley. So it was so great. Thank you so much for coming and giving your time, energy, and the knowledge base to the Thai community. It means a
Thank
lot.
you. Thank you.
Yeah. So now let's talk about majority of my audience is founders and
Mhm.
entrepreneurs, early stage entrepreneurs. So let's talk about the financial or the founders' financial blind spots. Most of the founders are either product focused or very much sales focused.
Yes.
What are the biggest financial mistakes you see that founders make early on?
Great question, Anshuman. I think the biggest mistake people make is not having the right person managing their financials, honestly.
Mhm.
Because I'm a true believer in, we got to swim in our swim lanes, whatever you're good at. So if you're a great founder in the tech space or retail space or wholesale, doesn't matter what your specialty, you focus in on that. Because if you start spreading yourself too thin, you're not going to get anything done the right way. So bring the right people to the table from the beginning, right? So get somebody on your team or somebody from outside assisting you with your financials, put it together. Because at the end of the day, if you're a founder looking to raise funding, if you're looking to get a line of credit to grow your business, for every single
Mhm.
one of these things, guess what the first question is? Please provide your financials. And if they're not in
Right.
order, then you lose credibility immediately, right?
Right.
So,
Right.
so that's one. And the second piece is, as a founder, if you do not have clarity on the numbers, if you don't know how certain segments of your business are performing, what your
Mhm.
margins look like, where you're at today, and where you need to get to, how are you going to chart that journey? Because the numbers are boring for most people.
Mhm.
I enjoy
Yeah.
it because that's my specialty. But the numbers actually tell a story about the business. It will tell you where your risks are, where the pockets are, where the business is not doing as well, and you need to refocus or reshift, right? And those
Mhm.
numbers tell a story immediately so you can pivot constantly. And it will also tell you where you need to get to and what needs to happen between now and then to get there. So those are the two biggest things. Get the right person from the very beginning and make sure your financials are in order. Understand the numbers yourself.
So let me ask a follow-up question on this, and this is regarding to the fractional CFO services.
Yeah.
I completely agree with you that a specialist should be managing the specialized work, and finance
Yeah.
vertical is that somebody good who knows the numbers, who knows how to because it is not just about bank reconciliation. It is much beyond that. Define CFO, fractional CFO services, and how a founder can take benefit out of that.
Yeah. So, I mean, something as simple as, you know, um, cash forecasting. Do you have a good idea in terms of what your burn looks like today? And based upon your hiring needs and your investment needs into your capex, what is the cash that you require? You need to have a
Mhm.
very clear idea of that. Otherwise, I've seen founders run into this issue. They start running out of cash and they haven't planned for it. Now, you don't want
Right.
to be in that situation. If you have a good idea in terms of when that cash is going to run out or how long that cash is going to last you, you can start planning ahead of time. That's what the CFO does, right? The CFO sort of is not an accountant who's looking backwards. And a CFO is somebody who's looking forward into your future to kind of
Mhm.
predict where the business is going, what your financial needs are going to be, when do you need to reach out and start raising more funding, or uh, how do you put that complex forecast together, right? As to what
Mhm.
your profit and loss is going to look like. What is the business trying to achieve over the next couple of years, right? So, a founder I'll give you an example. I was speaking to a founder who said, I'm doing about 1 million in ARR right now, but my goal is to get to 5 million in 2 years. Okay, wonderful. My next question is, have you figured out the steps that are going to get you there? He goes, no, I just got to go out and sell. Well, it's not as simple as that, right? Let's put it down on paper and see exactly what needs to happen. What are the levers that you need to be managing? And that's where a CFO comes in. They will help you and sort of become your coach, become um, your trusted advisor in a way to
Mhm.
guide you from any missteps in the future. And that's how I see my role, right? It's not about just looking backwards, but it's about looking forward into the future and then kind of helping the CEOs and founders figure out what's coming around the corner that they can't that yet see. And
Right.
with a CFO, that's our superpower. We can sometimes see what might be coming around the corner because we've dealt with it so many times.
Mhm, mhm. Understood. Neeti, you often describe the fractional CFO as a strategic advantage
Mhm.
without a full-time cost. When does a founder should bring a fractional CFO to run their company? At what size, at what level of activity they should have start taking benefit of a fractional CFO?
Yeah. I mean, I say from the very beginning, right? Work with a fractional CFO who is going to scale up with your business. So you don't have to incur that full time cost of a CFO. And
Mhm,
perhaps when you're just starting out and you don't have that right revenue in place, at least you still need that right guidance no matter what, right? So that right guidance has to be in place and work with a CFO who is willing to work with you at that start and then be willing to grow with you, right? Those are the
mhm,
best partners to have. Now they've got a vested interest in your business as well. They want to make sure that you grow, and as you grow, they grow with the business as well. So I'd say start from the very beginning so that you don't
mhm,
run into issues. You're doing things the right way. I mean, I had a founder that I was helping. They came to us after using a bookkeeper. And what happened is the bookkeeper was doing everything on a cash basis. They
mhm,
forgot that, hey, we are investing in all of this capex. And oops, nobody took depreciation on any of that. Well, then your P&L is wrong, right? And then they had applied for some patents which got granted, and all of a sudden, well, nobody's looked at the value of those patents. Well, you got to look at them every year. So all
mhm,
of those things that need to happen, and these issues get uncovered when that founder said, hey, I need to go out and get additional funding. Well, those questions started coming back from the investors. The founder had no answers for that. And so
mhm.
then we had to backtrack, fix the financials for them going backwards once they brought us on, right? So that's why I say get the right person from the very beginning, make sure that they grow with you.
Great. So many of the founders, and I talk to so many founders on a daily basis with my all the access that I have with them through my Investor Connect 365
Mhm.
platform. They often use the word bookkeeper, accountant, CA and CPA, and CFO in one line, interchangeably.
Yes.
Define for the early stage first time entrepreneur who is a bookkeeper, who is an accountant, who is a CPA, and what role the CFO plays.
Right. I think there's definitely confusion around that. And some of these roles, there's some overlap across all of this, right? But a bookkeeper, I would say, is somebody who you can utilize who can help you do the basic, right? Banking reconciliations, right? The basics. Uh, Put together your expenses and get out your invoices so you're recording your revenue. But
Mhm,
beyond that, I think an accountant is somebody who actually understands GAAP accounting, right? A bookkeeper may not, because accounting is a very specific skill and you cannot run afoul of GAAP accounting principles. Somebody who understands that would be an accountant. And then you go to that next level, which is a CFO or a fractional CFO. They are the ones who actually not just focus on the numbers, right? The right accounting, but they also focus on the strategy. risk management for the business? How are you dealing with your workforce? Right? So they literally become your strategic advisor hand in hand as you're growing your business. It's like I said, it's literally having a finance coach right next to
Mhm.
you who wears the hat of financial advisor, strategic advisor. It's somebody who can go out and negotiate on your behalf, sit in the meetings with you with investors, and point out any pitfalls that you might be running into in terms of what you're going to sign with these investors, right? To make sure that you get the best deal for you. And on top of that, they're the ones who can also help you sit in a board meeting, if you do have a board, and be able to
Mhm.
present on your behalf how the business is doing. And then if you've raised funding, we all know your investors want to know, how are my funds being utilized and how is the business doing? Well, every quarter when you need to send out that report, that's where a CFO can help put that strategic report together for you. So now you've got happy investors who at least have clarity in terms of how the business is doing. You've got happy founders who have good uh, numbers and clarity. And you've got an overall business coach sitting right beside you. So you're in the driver's seat, but they're in the passenger seat, constantly guiding you.
Right, right. Makes sense. Uh, Niti, I'm a talent guy. I run a company which finds talent for funded startups as well as small enterprises from $5 million to $80 million is my ICP, where they're looking to hire talent to grow their business. And I always say that finding the skill set is easy, finding the right fit is very, very difficult.
Oh,
And this is why we charge what we charge.
yeah.
Now, how to find a good fractional CFO?
Well, I think you have to ask the right questions. And
Right.
finance is in a space where it's all based upon trust. It's all based upon trust because your
Hmm.
CFO is going to have access to everything about your company. So you need to find somebody who can you can trust. And so I would say always go through somebody who is a referral, who you trust, and then go sit down and meet with them, right? And understand what are their values? How are they going to be with you? Do they gel with your culture? So, like in our firm, right? For us, the biggest thing is that we also interview the founders before we say, hey, we're coming on board. Because for us also, it's very important that there's a meeting of the minds, the culture, the trust, and that you've got somebody who is extremely um, honest, right? And so the trust goes both ways. And when I look at, the word trust, it's thrown around so easily all around, always in business. But, it actually boils down to the fact that for any good leader, trust is a basic foundation. If you don't have trust, you cannot build anything up beyond that, right? So if you're a founder, Anshum, and I'm talking to you and I'm giving you strategic advice, how are you going to listen to my advice and understand that it's actually good advice I'm giving you, even though it's pushback on something that you think you should be doing, and I am going against that and giving you my opinion? You can only do that if you trust that person. So I always say
Yeah.
go through a referral, find somebody, go spend time with them before you bring them on board and sign on that dotted line, right?
Hmm.
That's the crux of it. And if I'm to be selfish, Anshuman, I would say, hey, bring us on. We'll be your trusted advisors. We take that business of trust very seriously.
Right, right. And about the fee structure, just for the benefit of my founders and funded founders, if they are looking for a fractional CFO service providers and want to hire someone, is it all cash basis? It is cash fee and some advisory shares or equity in the company, or a combination of all these three or four things?
Yeah. So it really depends upon where the founder is with their business and what their needs might be, right? So with some, it's all on a monthly retainer. With others, it's a
Mhm.
combination of a retainer as well as some equity within the business. And I love the combination actually, because then both parties have vested interest in the business.
Yes,
I love
yes.
that, right? And so I've done a lot of those deals with my firm. Um,
Hmm.
and the other way of working it is, if the f- business, the startup, is at a certain point where they cannot afford too much cash, right? So it makes sense then to maybe have a laddered approach, right? In terms of
Hmm.
what are the type of services that you might provide today versus when your needs increase and your business is increasing and you've got a bunch of different contracts and you have to start looking at the complexities and compliance with those customer contracts, vendor contracts, and so on. So then you stagger it and layer it on as time goes by. But personally, I love the combination of equity slash cash altogether.
Altogether. Great, great. So now moving to another segment, fundraising, growth, and investor readiness. As an investor and a board director, you play, you are both. What separates a startup that are truly investment ready from those that simply believe that they are ready?
So I always laugh about that, Anshuman, because every founder out there thinks they're investor ready, right? Investment ready. They all think they've got a great idea. But, the one question I always ask every founder is, have you tested your market?
Hmm.
Or do you think you've got a great idea and you've been building on it and building on it and building on it? Right? To me, that's the biggest differentiator. And the ones who are investment ready are the ones who've come up with the idea, and before they build out from A to Z everything, they build out A to B to C only, they stop and then go get market feedback, right? They have
Hmm.
those test customers. And the ones who are the ones in the best position for investment readiness are the ones who already have revenue, right? What better way to prove that you're investment ready other than having paying customers? You show the need, you show that customers are happy, and they can just be test customers, but you need to be able to show that there is actually product fit in the marketplace. To me, that's the biggest telltale.
Hmm. So now wear your fractional CFO hat, and what are the biggest red flags investor like you see when reviewing a company's financials?
Okay. So, couple of things. One is they literally don't have financials, many of them. To me, that's the biggest thing, right? So they have not put anything together. And when we ask for the financials, if we try to take them on as a client, many times they're like, all right, here are my bank statements. Well, those are not financials. So that's one big red flag immediately. The rest of them are where they have maybe raised some funding, but they don't have any proper record keeping for it, right? Or they have given different terms to different folks without thinking of the long term implications,
Mhm.
right? How does it affect their equity in the business long run? Or if you've given a big chunk of equity initially to your first couple of investors and you're now ready to go out for a bigger series that you're going to raise, you may not be able to because you don't have enough equity left in the business that is attractive for a VC to come in, right? So those are some of the big signs. And then just looking at from a finance perspective, some
Mhm.
of the big red flags are they have no idea if I ask, what's your, how much bank cash do you have in the bank today? They don't know. They don't look at it.
Mhm.
What's your monthly burn? They have no idea how much they are spending. It's willy nilly, they're spending, but they have no idea. Or thirdly, they haven't thought about what happens when some of the contracts that they are trying to get actually land in their plate. They have no plan around it. So to me, those are some of the more business issues, not specifically finance, but all of those business issues translate into finance issues then. And so those are the areas where I counsel the founders immediately. Like, let's get you into the box of having some discipline about how to
Mhm.
go about, create some basic SOPs for the business. Because as you start growing, it becomes even more difficult when there's no discipline within the business. It's so much easier when you're just starting out to put some of those discipline steps in your business that everybody follows, and then it becomes the culture of the business, right?
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm. For any investment and equity participation, valuation is a big thing that goes into the discussion.
Hmm.
What is the role of a fractional CFO in giving the valuation of the company for investors? Do you feel valuation is a thing to be decided between the investor and the founder, or you feel that the CFO can play a major role
Hmm.
with numbers and with the backing
Yeah.
and give a solid standing on the valuation that the founder wants to get when they're raising capital?
Right. Um, I love that question, Anshuman. I relate it to real estate. Like at the end of the
Mhm.
day, if you're putting your house up on the market, you might think it's worth $1 million, but at the end of the day, it is whatever the buyer is willing to pay for it. That
Yes.
dictates. It's the market, right? But along with that, it's not just that. So we have to be prepared in terms of having the right discussion to show where the value already is in the business and why it supports a valuation of 1 million or more, right?
Mhm.
So using again that example of the house, right? So kind of dialing back to a couple of the first steps is one, understanding the differentiation the business has in the marketplace, right? So have a very clear idea of that. What is your USP that you bring to the table? And secondly, what progress have you made in that regard? Where are you with your product or idea? And thirdly, it's really the passion of the founders and the conviction that they have, because a lot of founders have great ideas, as we all know, and but they burn out and they leave, right? So you don't want to be that investor who's caught with your investment just hanging there now. So the grit, the perseverance is what differentiates the good founders from the not so good founders. And so for
Right.
me, I feel that if we can get that story solid in terms of where the financials are, what the competition is doing, and what are uniquenesses in the marketplace, and then you come up with back into some valuation number, now you've got solid ground to stand on. And then you layer it on top, like the icing on the cake is how you tell the story about the founder to the investors. Now the two parties can come together. So you've got some stake in the ground in terms of what you think the valuation is, but you can back it, right? And then at the end of the day, it's really what between the two parties, where you end up at. But at least you need to have a starting point, and that's where all
Right.
this preparation comes into play.
Right. Right. In today's market, what should founders prioritize? More growth, profitability, or capital efficiency?
Oh my gosh. Um, you know, I hear a lot of founders just focusing on I need to grow, I need to grow, I need to grow, which is great, right? You want founders who are very ambitious. But I always tell them you gotta sometimes slow down, right?
Right.
And look at where you're at today. Perfect what you're doing, how you're serving, because you might keep growing, but if you have massive churn of your customers because you don't have things in order, then that growth is meaningless and it's actually going to push you back. So,
Mhm.
yes, keep an eye on your growth, have a plan, but focus on today first. Grow slower. And that actually is a superpower that people sometimes don't understand, right? So think about it, Anshuman. If I want to take a massive leap across a chasm, what do I have to do? We pull back and then we jump, right? That gives us
Mhm.
that big spring. That's what sometimes we need to do in business as well. And I remind founders, pull back sometimes, stop, pause, look at where you are, perfect what you're doing, then focus on your growth. The
Right.
profitability will automatically fall into place then.
Right. Makes sense. Leadership, trust, and the executive yogi. You have spent your career in high pressure leadership environments. At what point did you realize that success and stress don't have to go hand in hand?
Yes. Anshuman, when I was very young, I actually grew up in India till I was 14, and I spent a lot of time with my grandparents. And my grandfather, especially, spent every morning when I visited him taking me out on long walks. And in
Uh-huh.
those walks, he would share some nice roasted nuts with me. And as we walked, he would ask me questions about, what were my dreams about? What is it that I want to accomplish in life? And then he was a businessman himself. And he would share his day to day stories about what he was facing, the challenges, the joys of being in business with me. And but the one thing that I took away from my grandfather was, although he was a businessman, every morning when I visited him, he would be awake at 4 in the morning, and I would wake up with him, and he started his day off with meditation. And I noticed that that 45 minutes of sitting down with me in a squat position right next to him in
Mhm.
meditation was the best thing he was doing. And I learned that from him at a very young age. And so when I moved as a young teenager from India to Los Angeles, instead of choosing between just business strategy or stillness, I decided I was going to be the bridge, that there has to be a meeting of the wisdom from the East and the business genius of the West, right? If you put that together, that's how I coined the words the executive yogi. Because an executive obviously is focused on the the well-being and the growth of a business, right? The outward success. And a yogi is somebody who is a wise person who's focused
Mhm.
on the wisdom, the inner growth. And so if
Right.
we have both together, business growth, inner growth, that is a superpower that allows you to distinguish yourselves from everybody else. Because in business, no matter how well prepared you are, there are going to be bumps in the road. Always, right? We all experience those ups and downs in business. And what the stillness allows you to do is it allows you to go inward before you actually react to anything. And now, all of a sudden, instead of any situation taking control of you, you take control of any situation. And I love that. So I always
Mhm.
say stillness before business strategy. That's it. Simple as that. And so
Mhm.
that's my term. And I wish that that would be my legacy one day. That when somebody says, "Hey, what did Neeti do in this life?" It would be she taught us to live like an executive yogi, where we are living a very fulfilled life in both our personal life and in our business life. These are not separate things; they are inextricably intertwined with each other, and that's sort of the life that we all should be living.
Mhm. Great, great answer. Thanks for sharing that, Niti. One of your recurring message is that trust is the real currency in business.
Yes.
Why do you believe trust matter more than talent, strategy, and even capital?
Yeah. You know, talent can be taught. You can teach somebody how to do certain things. You can get the funding from anywhere, one way or the other. But the one thing that you cannot
Mhm.
just replace is the trust. So, how you interact with somebody, your employees, your funders, your investors, um, your customers, your vendors, everything has to be based upon trust. Because think about it, in our own families, right? What is the biggest currency in our own families? We can share anything with them. We can have ups and downs in life, and we always know that we can
Mhm.
come back to one thing, that is family. Why is that? Because we
Right,
trust our
right.
family. No matter what happens, the family
Mhm.
is there. That's your foundation, the support system. And that same notion
Mhm.
needs to carry into business. Because if we have the trust with all our stakeholders in business, then we don't have to constantly second guess about somebody's intentions. We know that the intentions are right. We're all basically rowing the boat towards the same goal. And we need to
Mhm.
know that. And that's where trust comes in. That's it. I mean, think about it, right? If you trust an employee, you're not going to worry about things getting done. If you trust your investors that they have got the right ideas and the support for you, you're not going to question every time they ask you for a report as to how things are going, because you're all rowing in the same direction. And that's why I say nothing matters more than trust in business, period.
Yep, yep. You often talk about the emotional triggers and self awareness. Why is emotional mastery becoming such an important leadership skill today?
Yeah. So I'll share a story with you, Anshuman, as to how
Yeah.
uh, how I think about it. So when I was like 10 years old in India, we were going on a picnic, and um, a wild elephant kind of showed up from somewhere and started charging after me. And it came towards me, and I mean, I must have been crazy. I don't know what I was thinking, but I literally planted my 2 feet and I stared down at the elephant, and it stopped. Now, I
Wow.
mean, looking back, that was kind of silly because it could have crushed me. It was so big. But the fact is, it stopped. And even then, I was not scared. Everybody was charging all across the place, running berserk because they were scared of that big elephant charging at us. But I
Mhm.
wasn't. It was because of that stillness that I had learned from my grandparents at a very young age. And I have utilized that all the way through my adult life. Because if we learn to take charge of the inside, we know how to react to everything on the outside, because you cannot control what's going on around you, right? You can't control the people, you can't control their reactions to you, you can't control the economy sometimes, you can't control accidents that might happen. There's anything that could happen outside of you that you can control. So now, while the world is going nuts and crazy around you, if you can come from a space of stillness, right? Take that little pause before you react to anything. You pause, you take a deep breath, go into the stillness for just a sec, and then you respond. You're in such a better place because now it's not those things around you that are in control, it is you. And don't we all want to be behaving and acting in a place, from a place where we are in control of how we behave, how we act? So we stop reacting to the world around us. We learn to just act based upon our belief system, our core values. We just act, period.
Great, thanks. Nitik, while doing research on you and going through your LinkedIn, one of your posts asks, while people to others you lead with respect, why don't you extend yourself the same courtesy? Why do you feel that so many high achievers, constantly struggle with self-compassion? What goes behind their mind? What is happening there?
Well, our hustle culture. We've been taught, if you want to succeed in life, go work longer, harder, faster, right? And that's revered in our culture. But guess
Mhm.
what happens with that? Burnout. Like, even if you look at the at some of the largest corporations in the US and all across the world, 50% of the talent is talking about burnout. And why is that happening? Because they're being pushed to work harder, faster, longer, right? And that eventually is going to burn out your employees, it's going to burn you out, and it doesn't help the business in the long run. So I think it's just that the hustle culture that we've been taught. And I think we need to redefine what success looks like in today's world. Success is
Mhm.
not just that outwardly success. Success is about taking care of our employees. And if you don't take care of your employees, right, who we all keep hearing, yes, from an HR perspective, our employees are your people, are your biggest asset. I mean,
Yeah.
is that just a cliche? Or should we actually behave in a manner that actually shows that we value our employees? We value ourselves. And if we cannot imbibe a certain culture in terms of how we behave ourselves, how can we model it for anybody else? So that's why I say it has to start from us. We got to learn how to take care of ourselves. We have to learn to be kind to ourselves, to be joyful with ourselves before we can provide that to anybody else on our team or outside in the business world. Simple as that. So I think we have to start looking at and redefining our culture in terms of what we call success, period.
Great. Now let's talk about the executive yogi framework. You created the executive yogi framework around power, peace, and profit. Three P's.
Mhm.
Can leaders realistically achieve all three, or does one inevitably comes to the expense of the other?
So, you know, power is something a lot of people in business crave, but power is so transitory, right? And
Mhm.
if you look at powerful people in business, you'll find that many of them feel hollow, shallow, and very mellow in life. Now, if somebody is that powerful and that is such a great thing to have in life, why are they experiencing those emotions, right? They should
Mhm.
be happy, they should be joyful, but we don't always find that. It's because there's something that's missing. That's the peace part. Now, you look at the profits. People can use the power to create profits, or the profits that they create in their business can give them power. But in the long run, again, you talk to so many people. I've spoken to so many leaders who've achieved the highest level of success, right? And they still feel that something is missing in their life. And that's the peace part. And I think if you put peace in the middle and
Mhm.
then you circle it outside with focusing on the power and the profits, that piece is going to expand exponentially and actually create better profits for you. And if you look at any successful business out there, right, most of them who have focused on creating a great workplace for their employees, they are the ones who actually end up being very profitable in the long run. And isn't that what we all want? We want to be profitable in the long run. We want to create those returns for our shareholders, for our investors. And that we can only achieve that by focusing on peace first, and then the power and the profits come automatically.
Mhm. Understood. So, looking back to your journey from Big Four leadership to boardrooms to investing, becoming the president of TiE Atlanta, all of us grow in our journey, right? So, what has become more important to you today than it was 20 years ago?
Oh, yes. So in my late 20s, Anshuman, was very aggressive in business, and I started a bunch of businesses, did extremely, extremely well. I had, one exit early on.
Wow.
And, it sometimes gets to your head. And I'll admit, it got to my head too. And um, I was so focused on that outward success for some time. And I
Mhm.
just kept on building wealth, building wealth, building wealth. But there was a time when we had a massive downturn in business, right? Certain things did not work out. And I had to regroup myself and go, what is it that I did wrong? Right? So I lost a lot of my wealth and I had to restart again. And thank God that had
Mhm.
to happen at a young age. But I sat down with my husband one day and we started looking at our financials and kind of where we were at. And of course, me being the finance person, I was thinking about oh my gosh, our balance sheet is like so lopsided, all these liabilities now with the stuff that has happened. What are we going to do? And then I had a breakthrough. I realized that our balance sheet was not just those numbers. Our balance sheet was the fact that we still had each other, supporting each other. We had
Mhm.
our beautiful kids. We had our parents who were right there to tell us, come on, you guys can do it again. Don't you worry, right? And the friends who stood by us didn't care what we had when we had everything and we didn't have anything. They didn't care.
Mhm.
And the fact that we had our health and most importantly, all the knowledge that we had learned wasn't going anywhere. So in that moment, I redefined what success was going to mean to me. And I said it was going to be 12 areas of life. I was going to start from building myself inward first, that piece, and then focus on the profits and everything else that came with that. And so, in those 12 areas of life, it included certain things like charity, taking care of parents, taking care of our health, taking care of each other, and of course, the financial side as well. And so, we came up with like these 12 areas. And
Mhm.
that what is was the seed of my first book, From Executive to Yogi in 60 Seconds. And those 12 areas that I focused on every single day from that day on became my foundation for the 12 chapters in the book. And that's how I've lived my life ever since then. It's all about focusing inward first as to the impact that you want to make in life. What is the legacy that I want to leave behind? And success has to be about not just me and my immediate family. Success has to be very inclusive. It's about what is it that I can do with that success for everybody else. It has to be inclusive. And to me, that has redefined my whole outlook in life. And I realized I don't need much in life. So everything that I do now is about what is it that I can do for someone else with that success.
Mhm.
And that has become the most fulfilling part of my life.
Mhm. Mhm. Great. Neeti, you are very active on social media. What is a typical day or a typical week for you? You do so many things. Running a nonprofit organization like TiE, a local chapter of that in Atlanta, in itself is a horrendous job. It takes good amount of time, even though if you have a
Mhm.
very good secretariat, and then you are part of so many other groups. You are part of your own business. You're growing your social media. How do you manage time? What is a typical day or a week for you?
Okay. So, some of us are morning people, some of us are night people. So I'm not gonna tell everybody to do what I do, like figure out what works for you. But for me, my day starts at 4 in the morning. I'm wide awake at 4. I start with a nice cup of hot steaming black tea. To me, that's my stillness time. And then after my
Hmm.
tea, I have 45 minutes of yoga and free weights, right? So part of that power that I talk about, it's not just about business power. It's more about physical power. You need that to keep you grounded, to give you that energy. And then I follow that
Hmm.
with about half an hour of meditation, stillness. And I spend a good amount of time every single day looking at my life, what I've accomplished so far, and then what is it that I want to do. And I write down my goals. And sometimes it's the same goals over and over again. But you know what I realized, Anshuman? I've been doing it for so long now that I've got my notebooks from 20 years ago. And
Right.
just a couple of months ago, I had pulled them out of my garage and I was looking at them. And the goals that I'd put down 20 years ago, 15 years ago, 10 years ago, and even 2 years ago at that time seemed so impossible. And then now I'm looking back and I seem to have accomplished most of them somehow, right? And with some goals, they were so outrageous that I thought I really wanted to accomplish those goals. And now I realize I completely pivoted from that and they seem so laughable to me because they're not real goals to me anymore. So we all keep changing. But to
Hmm.
me, it's the way I start my day is through stillness, spending time with myself, questioning myself, and looking at what is the legacy that I want to leave behind and what am I going to do today, one thing towards that. That's how I start my day.
And at what time do you close your day? The business is off, and then
Yeah.
time for bed.
Yes. So between 9:30 and 10, phones are off, everything is off. I'm in bed reading a good
Mhm.
book, which allows me to fall asleep very naturally. So yes, I love
Right.
reading. I
Uh-huh.
devour books. My home is filled everywhere you go. It's like books and books and books. I love reading nonfiction, and so that helps me. And I think the main thing is we have to figure out what is it that we actually do enjoy in life and what are we good at,
Mhm.
right? And you don't just people talk about pursue your passion, but at the end of the day you can only be passionate about something and enjoy it if you're good at it. And to be good at something you have to put the effort, so it's all those years of effort that you put into something that gets you good at it, and then it becomes your passion and you start enjoying it thoroughly. So for me, what I do every single day in my business, I thoroughly enjoy. What I do at TiE Atlanta and helping the Atlanta entrepreneurial ecosystem, I love that. So we have to be doing things that we do enjoy, and we're putting the effort to get good at that. Simple as that. And then, of
Yeah.
course, it's I can't do it all alone. So I'm a big believer in reach out for help. I've got a great team in my business. Within TiE Atlanta, it's all the presidents who came before me, the board members, all the volunteers who help out. It's not about me, it's everything that they are doing to make it successful,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
That's it.
Right.
So it's about having a great group of people around you who are there to support you, and you being the support for them.
Yeah, yeah. Neeti, one final question about the younger generation today. Consider people 18 to 24 years or 26 years of age right now. They have a whole life to
Yeah.
pursue and go about it. But you have to start thinking about retirement early.
Yeah.
What was a good retirement money for about $2 million or $3 million might not be sufficient anymore. Of the people who will be retiring after 40 years, who
Right.
are 18 today or 24 today, give us some guidelines how they should plan their life, and what type of investment strategy or financial sturdiness they should build early on, so
Yeah.
that it is not very difficult for them when the time comes to retire.
Yes. Yeah. um you know it's one thing that I would tell every young person starting out today is learn to delay your gratification a little bit, right? Work hard, party harder. That's my motto. So you've got to work but party harder, right? So you don't burn out. But in the meantime, always think in terms of, if I want X, Y, and Z today, can I delay it a little bit? And if we
Okay.
learn how to delay certain gratifications that we want, it really builds up that discipline muscle to invest into your future. So if you can put aside enough of savings every single day and not waste it and delay that
Mhm.
gratification, then you're going to be in a place of having multiple choices. So when the right opportunity shows at your door, where you want to do something, you want to go buy a piece of real estate that has just shown up, but if you don't have the right cash for you at that moment, it might be the best deal, but you have no money for it, right? Well, if you've delayed your gratification, maybe you have that. You can pool it with a bunch of other people and go do something with that. Same thing with if a great deal on travel comes up and you wanted to take a great vacation. It's a great package. Well, because you delayed gratification, you might be able to purchase that and go enjoy it now later on, right?
Right.
So for me, I would say the biggest thing is learn to delay your gratification. And the
Hmm.
second biggest thing is be bold. Be bold with anything that you want to do. Set outrageous goals in life, because sometimes those outrageous goals may seem outrageous today, but somehow many of them do come true. And, I actually, even when I at this age sometimes don't feel bold, I look at my tattoo. It's tattooed right here on my arm. It actually says Anshuman bold in bold letters. And to me, that's a reminder to be bold in life. So don't shirk away from any big decisions in life. Go make mistakes, but quickly make decisions in life, even if they lead to some failures initially. You are going to learn how to start making decisions, keep moving forward, and be bold in life.
Yeah, I have a thought that in your whole life, generally you take four decisions. One, which country you were born and you have no control on it.
Yeah,
Which family you were born, again, you have no control on it. What did you do in your early education, on when you were in the school
hmm,
and early college and things like that, and which college did you go to, because that gives you the network,
sure.
and what you really did you really study, or you were just a party person? But the most important thing is, and I'm very successful in that, and so you are too, Neeti, is who is your life partner.
Yeah.
I think if that decision, you don't take a wrong decision, then the life is very beautiful.
Hmm.
uh, you can achieve much more than what you ever thought that you will achieve, just having that one decision. And with everything which is happening in India,
Hmm.
here in the US, the divorce rate, this, that, and the other, I think
Right.
the young kids need to spend a little more time and in finding their right life partner. What are your thoughts on that? And that would be the closing question.
I agree with that wholeheartedly, right? Because when you have the right partner, guess what happens? They bring out the best in you. And all of us don't feel the best every single day. But when you have the right partner, they are there to lift you up and you are there to lift them up, right? And like I said, we all are going to face bumps in the road. And if you have one other person who's the right person to share those bumps with, then it just
Hmm.
that journey becomes easier and you're able to sustain yourself through that, right? So I was married to my husband for 36 years. We were together 40 years. And that was the whole thing, that we made up our mind that even when life gets difficult, we're always going to be there to support each other. So
Hmm.
yes, finding the right life partner actually makes life easier. I lost my life partner 3 months ago, and I can tell you it's very different. So having that second support system is massive in life. But on the same token, if you do end up making the wrong decision, don't be stuck with that mistake either.
Yes.
Go pivot, get out of that. And life is too glorious and too beautiful to be stuck in that. Get out
Hmm.
there and make different choices and go find somebody else. But at the right time, do it the right in the right
Right.
timeline, right? But yes, it's just like team members. You need the right team members, and the same in your life. You need the right life partner to help you along. Absolutely.
Mhm. Great. Thank you so much, Neeti, for your time today. It was a pleasure talking to you, and hopefully, in the next couple of days, I'll see you in France.
Likewise, I'm looking forward to it.
Take care. Bye bye.
Bye bye.